Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to sort and filter data so that you can get averages and standard deviations and all the statistics that you want on any area of this table. Okay, so this table is on exonerations. So this is people that went to jail and then were later found innocent and released from jail. So this has their last name, first name, their age, their race, their gender, what state they were in, prison, county, some tags on it, their worst crime, and it goes on over here. We can see what else they have. We have sentence, like 14 years, so on like that, when they were convicted and when they were exonerated. So like this person was convicted in 2014, exonerated in 2017 because they were found innocent. That's 3 years that they spent in jail. And right here I have that. I actually did that calculation myself by putting in a little formula here, equals M2. Here's cell M2 right here, minus cell L2, that one. And 2017 minus 2014 is 3 years. Once I had that formula in there, I just clicked here and drug it down so that it would get that formula in all over the place. But you have that time that they spent in prison, even though they were later found not guilty. So, and I guess that doesn't really mean that they didn't do it. It just means that there's could have been something with the evidence that was maybe fabricated or whatever that showed that they really didn't have the evidence to prove they were guilty. So things got changed. And some people here were in a long time. Like here's this person, 16 years in jail from 1988 to 2004. They were actually sentenced to life. Here's another person, life without parole. They were in there for 25 years, and you can get their name and that sort of thing over there on the left. So now what we want to do is see if there's differences here or between maybe different races or genders or maybe different states. Was one state rougher than the other or whatever? So the way I'm going to do that is to first switch this over to a table. Right now it may look like a table, but it's not a table. It's when there's a table, you'll see things that you can pull down on each heading. So click anywhere in this data area and then click Insert, and then click Table. And my table has headers. Say OK, and there we go. And give it time, and you'll get these pull down things. Now I'm using the web version of Excel, which is free to everybody. But if you have the better version of Excel, which is your desktop version, then your things may be in just a little bit different place, but somewhere around here it says Table. Actually, you can switch it back out of being a table too by clicking on here. We are in Table Tools because we're in the table, and you can click on Design and you can say convert it to a range, and that will eliminate all this stuff. And that's actually what, when I got this sheet, it was already a table, so I had to convert it to a range to put in my formula over here that I put in, and then I switched it back to being a table again. But that's where you would convert it back to not being a table. But now it's a table. So once it's a table, then you can do all sorts of filtering. So here's one that I'll do is let's filter and sort both. We're going to do both of these things. So first of all, let's sort by gender. And you have to mess around with it a little bit, but I'm going to sort ascending because it'll put it in alphabetical order. So in other words, I just have females, then I have males. They could have been, a male, then a female, then a female, female, male, 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 all in any order. But now they're organized, and it organizes like when this right here gets moved up, then everything in that row got moved up too. Here, I'll take the sorting off one second. Let's see if I can. Well, I don't know if we can undo the sorting or not. Pretty much we're filtering. Sorry. Well, I could just maybe do the yeah. So if you want to unsort something, you can go down to Custom Sort and delete the filter that you have. The sorting that you have. But if we leave that off, then you can sort by anything you want, and it might mix the names back up. You know, the gender. It might make it go female, male, female, male, or so on. So I'm going to leave that on the sort ascending, and that means in alphabetical order F comes before M, so that's why all the females are showing next. Next, let's sort by state. Let's do that a second. And so now we got, as early as possible here, we got Alabama. And see, what we have is Alabama female, then we have, and there's only one of them, and then we have Alabama males, and there's a lot of those, and then it will go the next state alphabetically, like Alaska, and you have your one female in Alaska and many males in Alaska. Then you got two females in Arizona. So you can see you get the group that you want. And then here's males in Arizona, and you know, it just keeps on going alphabetically like that. Now once you do that, we can get averages and so on. So the easiest way to get averages, and it's not just because of averages, but it's because of getting all the other statistics like standard deviations and quartiles and so on. Those are hard to do on a regular Excel sheet. I'll show you how to do averages in a little bit. But since you can get all of these on the ESP4 Excel sheet that we're using in the course, I just get all of them there. So I'm going to use the ESP4 sheet to get the averages and standard deviations and so on. So let's say we're just wanting to deal with, let's say, Texas. Well, now that I have it sorted like this, then I'm also going to filter. So now on the state area, I've already sorted it, so I got all the states grouped together. So now I'm going to filter, and what this does is it's going to eliminate all the states by clicking select all here. That'll deselect them. And then I'm just going to pick the state that I want. So let's go down to Texas, see what's going on in Texas. So I'll choose Texas, say OK. And now just Texas shows up. And then let's just deal with one gender. So let's filter here, and let's just deal with males. So now we're just dealing with males and Texas. Okay. So now all the rows are lined up, and over here where I have number of time in prison, when I copy and paste this row, and I can do that by just clicking, and this is only going to copy the rows that we want here. You can click on the top of this and then just do Control C to copy that. Go to our raw data sheet. Let me delete this data out of here. So then right here, I'll just right mouse click and paste special as text, and now I have all the data for the amount of time in prison for males in just Texas. And I think it might even show how many data points we're dealing with. 319 males were exonerated in Texas over these years. And if you're worried about this word being in here, you can delete it. I don't think it counts that word anyway in any calculation. You see it's still 319 scores we have. But the nice thing is that we have all the data for that group. So here's the mean. This is the average number of years that males in Texas were in prison before they were exonerated, 9.15. Here's the median amount of years, 7. The range, probably anywhere from 0 up to 38 years is in here. Here's the max, 38. Here's the min, 0. Here's your first quartile of 1.5, third quartile 15, and over here are your standard deviations. And I'm assuming that this is not everybody in Texas that was exonerated. It might be for those years that we have here. I can sort it and see what years we have. But depending if this is a sample or a population, we'd have to know that to know whether we would use the sample standard deviation of 8.87 or the population standard deviation of 8.85. But either way, the difference between the sample standard deviation and the population standard deviation with this large of a sample of 319, it's very little of a difference. You can see here 8.87, 8.85, 6 or so. I mean, this one here is almost 8.86, so they're very, very close because the formula for these is based on sample size for the population and sample size -1 for the sample standard deviation. So therefore these get very, very close to each other as your sample sizes get larger. But you'd have to be told which one of these numbers to use, but it's hardly going to change anything since they're so close. So now I have everything that I would want. I could even get percentiles here, coefficient of variation. I could trim the mean. I can do all that. So this is definitely where you can get all your information very nicely right there. Now I'll compare the answer by doing an actual average here for this table. So what I can do, a couple things, is I could do equals average, open parentheses, and then I can click and drag over these cells that I have here. Now remember, I just have Texas males showing up, so that's why I can click and drag over this. So if I click and drag over this stuff, and I'll do this a couple times here to show you. And this, again, I think is harder, but it's not that hard, but it is a way that you can do this if you didn't have the ESP4 sheet that I wrote for this course. So let's see if it just takes a while to drag this down here. Sorry about that. Whoop, there we go. So there, just drag it to the end. I left go, and I guess we'll have to go right here, close it off, hit enter, and we get 9.153. Let's check that on the Excel sheet. 9.153, and at 9.153, 9.153. So you see you get the same thing. Now I think we can also, since these are the only ones showing up, I think we could do it this way. Equals average, open parentheses, and just click on the column. Not the column title, but the actual column. Column W is what we're in. Close the parentheses, hit enter, and we do not get the same answer because it's must be figuring in all of them here that we haven't done. So that isn't going to help. So what we could do is use the average ifs function. So I'll show you how that works. We would do equals average ifs, IFS, open parentheses, and now you can see that it's telling you what you want. So we want the average range. Well, the range that we're going to get the average of is in column W. So you can click up at column W. Then comma, what criteria are we talking about? Well, the first criteria was you can pick it. It's either Texas or male. So I'm going to deal with the gender first. So over here where we had gender, and so let's keep on clicking to get over here. I'm going to click on this column, column E, not where it says sex, but up above E, do a comma, and we're looking for, quote, the word male, close quote, comma. The other thing was what state it was from. So right here in the state area, I'm going to click that. See, criteria range 2 is what state they were from. And I'm going to do comma, quote, and it was Texas, close quote. Now close parentheses. And now I get my answer over here, and that answer is exactly the same. See, that 9.15 is exactly the same as what I did when I highlighted the cells and put them in. And both of these methods are a little bit harder than just copying that once you have it sorted and filtered. See, that's the key to it. Once you have it sorted and filtered, to copy and paste it special as text over into the raw data sheet. And you get, and the nice thing is in here you get all your statistics. So while there is such a function as average if, there's not a function standard deviation if. So that this really helps to do it this way. Now we could have got the standard deviation. Let's say it's a sample standard deviation. So if I do ST, and you can see just after equals ST, I see STDEVP for standard deviation of population and STDEVS for sample. So let's say it's a sample of the people from Texas that were exonerated. Maybe it's not all of them. So I'll double click on that, and since there's no standard deviation if, I can't do an if statement and say all that I did before with, if female and all that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to highlight the data like I did before. So I'm just going to click and drag it down. And I think there's a shortcut key that I wouldn't have had to be dragging this down like this and chew up your time watching the numbers go by. but I think there is maybe an arrow down.